The first tear fell before the music stopped. Evelyn Hart stood center stage beneath the golden lights of the Boston Imperial Theater, one arm lifted, one foot balanced on point. Her body held in the final position she had rehearsed for 11 months. Around her, the orchestra continued to breathe through the last aching notes of Swan Lake, but Evelyn heard none of it. She heard only the sound of her own pulse, because there, at the edge of the stage, resting against the velvet darkness like a wound against silk, was a single black rose. Not red, not white, not the pink roses fans threw after opening night. Black. Its petals were almost blue beneath the spotlight, tied with a thin strip of silver ribbon. The same flower that had been found beside her mother's body 17 years ago. For one suspended second, Evelyn was no longer 26 years old. No longer the most disciplined dancer in the company. No longer the understudy who had finally earned her impossible chance. She was 9 again, barefoot in the hallway of their old apartment, watching police lights paint the walls red and blue, while adults whispered words they thought she was too young to understand. Accident. Wrong place. No witnesses. Black rose. Her ankle trembled. The audience noticed. A murmur passed through the theater like wind moving over water. Evelyn tried to force her body to finish. She had danced through torn skin, cracked ribs, fever, grief, hunger. She had spent her life proving that pain could be shaped into beauty if she controlled it hard enough. But the rose seemed to stare back at her from the stage floor, accusing her of forgetting. Then the final note struck. Her body failed. She lowered from the pose too fast, nearly stumbling. The spotlight followed her mercilessly. The dancers around her remained frozen in their places, eyes wide, trained smiles breaking at the edges. The audience did not applaud. Someone laughed, a soft, cruel sound from the front row. Then another. Evelyn's cheeks burned beneath her stage makeup. Her throat closed. She looked toward the wings, where Victor Hale stood in his black director's suit, his face carved with disgust. He did not look concerned. He looked pleased. He stepped onto the stage before the curtain could fall. That alone was a humiliation. Directors did not interrupt opening night bows. They did not correct dancers in front of donors, critics, and patrons who had paid thousands to be seen in velvet seats beneath chandeliers. Victor did. He crossed the stage slowly, each step echoing. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, voice smooth, sharp, amplified by the theater's perfect acoustics, "you have just witnessed what happens when sentimentality is mistaken for discipline." Evelyn could not move. The black rose lay inches from her slipper. Victor turned to her, smiling without warmth. "Miss Hart has spent years begging for a principal role. Tonight, she proved why hunger is not the same as greatness." The audience shifted. Some were horrified. Some were entertained. The cruelest leaned forward. Evelyn stood beneath the lights, unable to hide, unable to breathe. Then, from the highest private balcony, a man stood. The movement was small. The effect was instant. The laughter died first. Then the whispers. Then even the orchestra seemed to forget how to exist. Evelyn looked up. She saw him in the shadows of Box 7, a place reserved for donors whose names appeared on buildings, museums, hospital wings. He wore a black suit that looked less like fashion and more like armor. His face was calm, devastatingly still, dark hair, cold eyes. A posture so controlled it made every other man in the room seem poorly assembled. She did not know his name, but everyone else did. Dante Moretti, the most feared man in Boston, a man whose family owned restaurants that never opened, shipping companies no one questioned, nightclubs police avoided, and favors powerful people pretended not to owe. A man whispered about in the same tone people used for storms moving toward the coastline. He rested one hand on the balcony railing and looked down at Victor Hale. "Apologize," Dante said. He did not raise his voice. He did not need to. Victor went pale. "Mr. Moretti," he said carefully, "this is a private artistic matter." Dante's gaze shifted from Victor to Evelyn. For the first time that night, she felt seen without being consumed. There was no pity in his eyes. No amusement. No public hunger for her shame. There was something worse. Recognition. As if he had been waiting for this moment and hated that it had arrived. Dante looked back at Victor. Apologized to her. Victor's mouth tightened. "You are a generous patron of the arts, Mr. Moretti. But you do not run my stage." Dante's expression did not change. One of his men leaned toward him, murmured something, then stepped back. Dante lifted his eyes toward the ceiling, toward the gold molding, the velvet boxes, the chandelier, the painted angels above the proscenium arch. Then he said, "I do now." A silence opened so deep Evelyn could hear someone gasp in the back row. Victor blinked. "Excuse me?" Dante buttoned his suit jacket with slow precision. "I bought the theater." The words landed heavier than thunder. Victor's face lost all color. Dante descended from the balcony, while the entire Boston elite watched him move through the theater like a judgment. Men rose to get out of his way before he reached them. Women stopped whispering. Donors who had ignored Evelyn's humiliation moments earlier lowered their eyes, as if shame had finally found them. He climbed the side steps onto the stage. Up close, he was taller than she expected. Not huge in the crude way of men who needed their bodies to announce them, but controlled, dangerous, powerful in the way of something sharpened over time. He stopped a few feet from Evelyn. Not close enough to touch, close enough for her to feel the heat of him. His eyes flicked once to the black rose at her feet. A shadow moved across his face. Then it vanished. Victor tried to recover. "Mr. Moretti, perhaps we should discuss this privately." Dante did not look at him. "Get off my stage." Victor's jaw clenched. "You cannot simply—" Dante turned his head slightly. That was all. Two men in black suits stepped from the wings. Victor fell silent. Evelyn should have felt relief. Instead, fear moved through her like cold water, because the most dangerous man in Boston had just protected her in front of everyone, and he had looked at the black rose as if he knew exactly why it had broken her. Dante's voice lowered. "Miss Hart." Her name in his mouth felt impossible. She swallowed. "How do you know my name?" Something unreadable passed through his eyes. "I know many things I wish I didn't." The curtain fell behind them like a wall. The applause never came. 3 hours later, Evelyn sat alone in dressing room 4 with her stage makeup half removed and her hands still shaking. Outside the door, the company buzzed like a wounded hive. Dancers whispered. Staff hurried. Donors demanded answers. Victor Hale had not been seen since being escorted from the building, and the theater's entire administrative board had apparently resigned before midnight. All because of Dante Moretti. All because of one black rose. Evelyn stared at it on the dressing table. She had picked it up after the curtain fell, though every instinct had screamed not to touch it. Now it lay beside her makeup wipes, elegant and obscene. A knock came at the door. She stood too quickly. "Who is it?" "Moretti." Her heart hit once, hard. She looked around as if there were another exit. There was not. "Go away," she said. The door opened anyway. Dante stepped inside alone. No bodyguards. No visible weapon. No apology for entering a room she had not invited him into. Evelyn's fear sharpened into anger. "I said go away." "I heard you." "And ignored me?" "Yes." She stared at him. "Do women usually find that charming?" "No." "Good, because I don't." For the first time, something almost like interest touched his face. He closed the door behind him but stayed near it, as if deliberately giving her space. Evelyn wrapped her arms around herself. She was still in costume. White tulle and pale satin. A dying swan beneath fluorescent dressing room lights. Dante's gaze moved over her, not with desire exactly, but with assessment. He noticed the raw tape around her toes, the bruising beneath her collarbone from rehearsal lifts, the slight swelling at her ankle she had hidden under makeup. "You're injured," he said. "I'm a danseur." "That wasn't what I said." She lifted her chin. "Why are you here?" His eyes shifted to the rose. The room changed. "How long has Victor Hale had access to your dressing room?" Evelyn frowned. "What?" "Answer me. I don't answer men who buy buildings in the middle of my humiliation." "You should tonight." The cold authority in his voice made her pulse jump. Not because he shouted. He did not. That was the worst part. He spoke like the world had already obeyed him, and was simply catching up. She stepped toward him, anger holding her upright. "Who are you to ask me anything?" His eyes stayed on hers. "The man standing between you and whoever put that rose on stage." Evelyn's breath caught. He knew. No, he could not know. She turned toward the dressing table. It was probably a sick joke. It wasn't. "You don't know that." "I do." "Then tell me how." Dante said nothing. The silence stretched until she almost threw the rose at him. "My mother died with one of these beside her," she said, voice shaking despite her effort to control it. "I was 9. I never told anyone in this company. I never told Victor. I never told the press. So if you know what it means, tell me. Right now. Dante's jaw tightened. For a moment, she saw something behind the mask. Not guilt, exactly. Pain locked so deep, it had become discipline. Your mother's name was Celeste Hart, he said. Evelyn went still. She danced for the Imperial before it became what it is now. She left the company suddenly in 2008. Everyone said she had an injury. She didn't. Evelyn's fingers curled. Stop. She was hiding. Stop. From my family. The room seemed to tilt. Evelyn stared at him, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Your family killed her? His eyes did not leave hers. I was 17 when she died. That is not an answer. No, he said quietly. It isn't. She moved before thinking. Her palm struck his face with a sound that seemed too loud for the small room. Dante did not move. Not away. Not toward her. His head turned slightly from the impact, then slowly came back. A red mark rose along his cheek. Evelyn was breathing hard. Get out. His gaze had darkened, but not with anger. With something more dangerous. You should not stay in your apartment tonight. She laughed once, bitter and afraid. There it is. The order. It isn't safe. Because of you? Because someone used your mother's marker in front of 600 witnesses. His voice sharpened. That was not only a threat, it was an announcement. To whom? To May. The words entered her slowly. Evelyn looked at the rose again. You think this was about you? I think someone wanted me to see you break. The intimacy of that sentence made her skin go cold. Why would that matter to you? Dante stepped closer. Only one step. Enough for the room to feel smaller. Because they know I've been protecting you. Evelyn stopped breathing. The fluorescent light hummed. What did you say? His silence confirmed it before he did. For how long? She whispered. Years. The slap should have been enough. It was not. She wanted to scream. She wanted to demand every answer, every detail, every night he had watched from the dark while she limped home from rehearsal. Counted grocery money, cried silently in laundromats, and told herself no one was coming. Instead, she said, You funded my scholarship. Dante's eyes flickered. That was answer enough. Her scholarship. Her medical bills after the tendon injury. The anonymous donor who kept the company from cutting her. The rent assistance grant she had cried over. Because it arrived the week she nearly quit. All of it. Him. She stepped back as if proximity itself had betrayed her. You had no right. I know. No, you don't. Her voice broke. You don't get to hide in my life like a ghost. And call it protection. His face remained controlled, but his hands curled once at his sides. Had I come sooner, you would have run. I'm going to run now. No, he said. Her eyes flashed. Watch me. A crash sounded from the hallway. Not loud enough to be theater equipment. Too sharp, too sudden. Dante moved instantly. He crossed the room, caught her wrist, and pulled her behind him before she could protest. His body became a wall between her and the door. Another sound followed. A muffled shout. Then the lights cut out. The dressing room dropped into darkness. Evelyn's breath hitched. Dante's hand found her waist, steadying her before she stumbled. He did not hold her like a lover. He held her like something he had decided the world would not take. His mouth came close to her ear. Do exactly what I say. She hated that her body listened before her pride could refuse. The door handle moved. Slowly, Dante shifted, silent as winter. A thin beam of light appeared beneath the door. Then a voice from outside said, Miss Hart, Mr. Hale wants to see you. Dante's expression turned lethal. Evelyn's blood chilled. Because Victor Hale had been escorted out hours ago. Dante reached behind the dressing mirror, touched something Evelyn had never noticed, and a narrow hidden panel clicked open in the wall. She stared. What is that? A way out. In my dressing room? In my theater. You bought it 3 hours ago. I had the plans before that. The door began to open. Dante pulled her into the hidden passage and closed the panel just as the dressing room door swung inward. Darkness swallowed them. They moved through a narrow service corridor behind the walls of the theater. Evelyn's costume snagged on exposed brick. Her ankles screamed with each step, but Dante did not slow until they reached a stairwell lit by red emergency bulbs. Only then did he look down and see her limp. His face changed. Your ankle. I'm fine. You're lying. I said I'm fine. He stared at her for 1 second too long, then without warning bent and lifted her into his arms. Evelyn gasped. "Put me down." "No. I can walk." "Badly." "Dante." The name slipped out before she could stop it. He paused. The air between them shifted. She felt it through his stillness, through the way his arms tightened almost imperceptibly. Then he continued down the stairs. Outside, snow fell heavily into the alley behind the Imperial. Black SUVs waited with their engines running. Dark shapes beneath yellow streetlights. Men in coats stood alert near each vehicle, scanning rooftops, windows, doorways. Evelyn saw the theater's back entrance burst open above them. A man appeared with a gun. Dante turned, shielding her with his body as one of his men rushed forward. There was a flash, a sound that cracked through the snow, and the man disappeared back into the doorway. Evelyn flinched into Dante's chest. His hand came up behind her head, pressing her face against his coat. "Don't look." She did anyway. Not at the violence. At him. His face was calm, terribly calm. As if danger did not reach him the way it reached other people. As if he had left fear somewhere in childhood and never gone back for it. The SUV door opened. Dante placed her inside, then slid in beside her. The door shut, sealing them in warmth and leather and silence. As the car sped into snowy Boston traffic, Evelyn looked through the tinted window at the Imperial Theater shrinking behind them. Her dream had ended there, or perhaps something darker had begun. Dante's mansion sat outside Boston behind iron gates and a long private drive lined with bare winter trees. It was not the vulgar palace Evelyn had expected from a crime lord. It was older, quieter, built of gray stone with tall windows glowing amber against the snow. The kind of house that looked like it had swallowed generations of secrets and kept them warm. She refused his hand when they arrived. He offered it anyway. She stepped out alone and nearly collapsed when her ankle hit the ground. Dante caught her before she fell. His arm wrapped around her waist, firm, controlled. "Stubbornness is not strength," he said. "Control is not care." His eyes moved over her face. "No," he said softly, "it isn't." That answer unsettled her more than any threat could have. Inside, the mansion smelled of cedar, smoke, and old books. A housekeeper appeared, saw Evelyn's costume and bruised feet, and wisely said nothing. Dante ordered a doctor. Evelyn refused. Dante ignored the refusal. The doctor arrived within 20 minutes. By then, Evelyn had changed into an oversized black sweater and soft pants, left in a guest room that was too beautiful to be a prison, but too guarded to be anything else. Her costume had been taken away for cleaning without permission. Her phone had been placed on the nightstand, but every call failed. When the doctor touched her ankle, she winced. Dante, standing by the window, turned immediately. "I'm okay," Evelyn snapped before he could speak. The doctor, an older woman with silver hair and unreadable eyes, wrapped the ankle with practiced care. "Not broken," she said. "Overstrained. Bruising. She needs rest." Dante's gaze stayed on Evelyn. "She won't rest. I'm sitting right here," Evelyn said. "Yes," he said, planning escape routes. The doctor's mouth twitched, but she wisely kept working. After she left, Evelyn stood too quickly. "I want answers." Dante poured whiskey into a glass he did not drink. "You'll get them." "When?" "When you're safe." "I'm not safe. I'm in a Mafia Boss's mansion with men outside the doors and no working phone." "You are alive. That's your standard?" "It has had to be." The quiet exhaustion beneath the words caught her off guard. Dante turned from the window. Snow reflected softly across his face, sharpening the planes of it, making him look less like a man and more like a warning carved from darkness. "Victor Hale has been laundering money through the Imperial for the Vasilyev family," he said. "Russian. Old enemies of mine. They use art institutions because wealthy people never question beauty when it comes with tax advantages." Evelyn's stomach tightened. "Victor? He is not merely cruel. He is ambitious. Cruelty is only how weak men practice power before they steal it." She thought of Victor's hands correcting her posture too hard, his voice calling her replaceable, his smile when she froze. "And my mother?" Dante looked away. That small movement told her the answer would hurt. "Celeste Hart was not only a ballerina," he said. "She was a courier." Evelyn stared. "No. She carried messages between families before digital trails became dangerous. She was young, beautiful, invisible in the way artists often are to powerful men." Brine, PP. 2. PP. pp. 2. My mother was not mafia. No, but she was near it. Evelyn's throat tightened. She tried to leave, Dante continued. She took something with her. A ledger. Names. Payments. Kill orders. Proof that my father and the Vasilyevs were planning to merge their territories through marriage. Marriage? My older brother Luka was supposed to marry the Vasilyev daughter. The name meant nothing to her, but Dante said it with such controlled pain that the room seemed to dim. Your mother found out the marriage was a trap, he said. Luka would have been killed after the alliance was signed. She warned him. What happened? Luka died anyway. Evelyn felt the old house breathing around them. And my mother? She ran. The words were quiet. She came to my mother, Dante said. Begged for help. My mother hid her for 3 days. On the 4th, Celeste was found dead, a black rose beside her. Evelyn's eyes burned. Who killed her? Dante did not answer quickly enough. Her voice sharpened. Who killed her? My father ordered it. The room vanished. For a moment, Evelyn saw only white. Then she moved. She crossed the room and shoved him with both hands. He let her. She shoved him again, harder. Tears blinding her. You knew, she said. You knew all this, and you stayed away? You paid for my classes? My rent? My career? Like money could clean blood? Dante's face tightened, but he did not defend himself. I was 17, he said, powerless. You're not 17 now. No, you could have told me. Yes, but you didn't. No. Why? His eyes finally broke from hers. Because my father died before I could prove it. Because the ledger disappeared. Because anyone connected to Celeste Hart was being erased. Because the moment I spoke your name in my world, men would wonder why you mattered. And now? His gaze returned to her. Now they already know. The words settled between them like falling ash. Evelyn wiped her face with the heel of her hand, furious at the tears. I hate you. Dante accepted it like a sentence he had been waiting years to hear. You should. That was the problem. He did not argue. He did not ask forgiveness. He stood there with the unbearable stillness of a man who knew every accusation was deserved. And somehow, that made hating him harder. For the next 3 days, Evelyn remained in the mansion while snow buried the world outside. She told herself she was not staying because Dante told her to. She was staying because someone had placed the black rose on stage. Because Victor Hale had vanished. Because men had tried to enter her dressing room. Because her mother's death, the wound around which she had built her life, had opened again. But each hour inside Dante Moretti's house felt like living inside someone else's obsession. There were guards outside every door. A driver waiting at all times. A security room she was not supposed to discover, but did. On the second night, while searching for a landline, Evelyn found the room behind the library. The door was locked. She opened it with a hairpin. Ballet had taught her pain, balance, endurance. Poverty had taught her locks. Inside, monitors covered one wall. Not hundreds, not a deranged shrine, but enough. The Imperial Theater lobby. The alley behind her apartment. The exterior of her rehearsal studio. The street corner near the cafe where she bought coffee after morning class. The street corner near the cafe. Evelyn stood frozen in the glow of surveillance screens. Behind her, Dante said, I wondered how long it would take. She turned slowly. He stood in the doorway, no anger in his face. That almost made it worse. You watched me. Yes. For how long? 7 years. Her breath left her. 7 years? Not inside your apartment, not private spaces. She laughed. Sickened. That's supposed to comfort me? No. Then what? You want applause for ethical stalking? His jaw flexed. I kept distance because proximity would endanger you. I watched public approaches, exits, known routes. You watched my life. I watched threats near your life. She stepped toward him, trembling with rage. Did you watch me cry after auditions? His silence answered. Did you watch me walk home with bleeding feet because I couldn't afford a cab? Another silence. Did you watch me almost quit? Yes, he said quietly. The admission broke something open in her chest. And you did nothing. I paid the company to keep you. I didn't ask you to save my dream. No, he said. You earned it. I only made sure men like Victor could not bury it. His words landed too close to the place she kept her most secret fear that she had never been chosen for talent. Only tolerated through someone else's charity. She stepped back. Was any of it real? Dante's eyes darkened. You're dancing? My career. He looked almost offended. You think I can buy what you do on stage? You bought the stage. I bought the building. Not the way 600 people stopped breathing when you moved. She hated him for saying the exact thing she had needed to hear for years. Her voice dropped. Why me? The question was smaller than she meant it to be. Dante stayed in the doorway, as if entering the room would make the truth too intimate. Because when you were 19, he said, you danced with a fractured rib and refused to tell anyone because the understudy behind you had a sick mother and needed her core contract. Evelyn went still. No one knew that. How? Because I had already started watching by then. That's not an answer. It is the only one that matters. His voice lowered. You were in pain and still protected someone weaker than you. I had spent my whole life watching powerful people devour the vulnerable and call it survival. You were the first person I saw do the opposite. The monitors hummed. Evelyn's anger did not disappear, but something inside it shifted. Not forgiveness. Understanding was not forgiveness. It was more dangerous. Dante turned to leave. Do you still have them? She asked. He paused. The recordings. His shoulders went still. Yes. Why? A long silence. Then, without looking back, he said, because sometimes your dancing was the only proof I had that something in this city was still untouched. He left before she could answer. That night, Evelyn dreamed of black roses blooming through snow. On the fourth day, Dante took her back to the Imperial. She refused at first. Then he told her Victor had resurfaced. That was enough. The theater looked different under daylight. Smaller. Exposed. The magic stripped away. Police tape had been removed. But Dante's men remained stationed near exits, dressed like ushers with eyes too sharp for hospitality. Evelyn walked through the lobby in a long wool coat, her ankle wrapped beneath her boot. Her body remembered every corner of the building, every rejection, every hunger. Every night she stayed late until the janitor turned off the lights around her. Dante walked beside her but did not touch her. She noticed. She hated that she noticed. In the director's office, Victor Hale sat behind his desk as if nothing had changed. His silver hair was immaculate, his hands folded, his smile thin. Evelyn, he said, you look rested. Dante's expression did not move. Victor's eyes flicked to him, then back to her. I assume you understand now that Mr. Moretti's involvement complicates your position. Evelyn stepped forward. My position? You are a dancer in my company. My company, Dante corrected. Victor smiled. For now. The air turned sharp. Dante said nothing, but one of his men closed the office door. Victor lifted his hand slightly. Careful. If anything happens to me, certain documents become public. Miss Hart's career will not survive the scandal. Evelyn's stomach tightened. What scandal? Victor's smile widened. Anonymous funding. Preferential casting. A mafia patron. The papers will adore it. The tragic little ballerina sleeping her way to the stage. Dante moved so fast Evelyn barely saw it. One moment he stood beside her. The next, Victor was against the wall with Dante's hand gripping his throat. Not crushing. Not yet. Controlled enough to terrify. Say that about her again, Dante said softly. Victor's smile faltered. Evelyn's pulse roared. She should have been afraid of Dante. She was. But beneath the fear was something she did not want to name. A dark, shameful relief at seeing someone finally make Victor afraid. Dante, she said. His hand remained at Victor's throat. Dante. This time, he looked at her. The room held its breath. Slowly, he released Victor. Victor coughed, straightening his jacket with shaking hands. Evelyn stepped closer to the desk and saw a file lying half open beneath a stack of contracts. Her name was on it. Not Evelyn Hart. Evelyn Moretti. She froze. What is that? Victor's eyes flashed. Dante turned. Evelyn pulled the file free before anyone could stop her. Inside was a forged marriage certificate. Her name. Dante's name. Dated 2 years earlier. The room went silent. Evelyn looked at Dante. His face had gone dangerously still. Victor laughed under his breath. Oh, he didn't tell you. Evelyn could barely speak. Tell me what? Dante did not look away from Victor. That document is fake. Convenient, Victor said. Evelyn's hands shook as she flipped through the pages. Photos of her entering restaurants where Dante happened to have private meetings. Bank transfers labeled as household support. A false narrative built carefully, patiently, disgustingly. Victor leaned back. The Vasilievs have been building a public scandal. If Miss Hart speaks, they release proof that she has been secretly married to a mafia boss, laundering money through the ballet, and receiving roles through criminal influence. Evelyn felt sick. Dante's voice was ice. You helped them. Victor shrugged. I helped myself. Why? Evelyn whispered. Victor looked at her then, truly looked at her, and the mask of artistic cruelty fell away to reveal something uglier. Because your mother ruined everything. The room tilted again. Victor smiled. She was supposed to deliver the ledger to my father. Instead, she hid it. Do you know what happens to men who disappoint mafia families? They don't die. Quickly. My family lost everything because Celeste Hart decided, at the last moment, to develop a conscience. Evelyn's fingers tightened around the file. You knew my mother? I knew she was weak. Dante took one step. Victor's confidence cracked. But Evelyn lifted a hand. No, she said. Dante stopped. She turned fully toward Victor. My mother was not weak. Victor sneered. She was a dancer who thought beauty made her good. No, Evelyn said, voice steady now. She was a woman who saw monsters and still chose not to become one. Victor's smile faded. For the first time in her life, Evelyn understood that grace could be a weapon. She placed the forged file back on the desk. Release whatever you want. Victor stared. Excuse me? You heard me. Dante looked at her, something like fierce admiration entering his eyes. Victor recovered. You think public shame won't destroy you? It already happened on stage, she said. I survived it. You will never dance again. Evelyn leaned forward. Then I'll still have more dignity than you. Victor's face twisted. A phone rang. Not anyone's cell. The old desk phone. Everyone went still. Victor smiled slowly. That will be for you. Dante answered it. He listened for 3 seconds. His expression changed. Not fear. Something worse. Rage sharpened into silence. He hung up. Evelyn's heart began to pound. What? Dante looked at her. The doctor who treated your ankle is dead. The words cut all the air from the room. Victor's smile returned. She should not have asked questions about old medical records. Dante turned to him. This time Evelyn did not stop him. The war began that night. Not with sirens or headlines, but with silence. Dante moved Evelyn from the mansion to a hidden safe house beneath an old church near the harbor. The building above had been abandoned for decades. Its stained glass windows cracked, its pews covered in dust, its altar stripped bare. Beneath it, however, was another world. Reinforced doors, warm lights, old brick tunnels, maps of Boston, screens, files, weapons locked behind steel. Evelyn hated how natural Dante looked there, as if darkness was not where he hid, but where he had been raised. You can't keep moving me like property, she said as he led her through the underground corridor. I'm keeping you alive. I didn't ask for this war. It was already around you. I should get to choose what happens to my life. He turned. For the first time, exhaustion cracked his control. You think I don't know that? The force of it stopped her. Dante looked away, jaw tight. I have spent 7 years staying outside your life because I knew my world would swallow yours. I told myself distance was respect. Then you cried on that stage, and every man who wanted to hurt me saw what broke me. Evelyn's breath caught. There it was. Not a confession. Something more dangerous because he had not meant to give it. What broke you? She asked softly. His eyes came back to hers. He did not answer. Instead, a young man rushed in holding a tablet. Boss. The article just dropped. He handed it to Dante. Dante read once, then passed it to Evelyn. The headline was already everywhere. Ballerina's secret mafia marriage. Did Moretti buy her career? Her photo appeared beside Dante's. Her scholarship history. Bank transfers. Anonymous patronage. Photos taken out of context. Rehearsal footage. Medical bills. Her life arranged into a lie. Evelyn's stomach turned. They'll believe it, she whispered. Dante's face was cold. Some will. Everyone will. No. How do you know? Because I'm going to give them something bigger. She looked up. What? Myself. The safe house went quiet. Evelyn stared at him. What does that mean? It means I will confirm the money came from me. I will say you had no knowledge. I will expose Victor, the Vasilyevs, the theater accounts. And what happens to you? His silence answered. No, she said. It's already done. No, Dante. His eyes sharpened at the fear in her voice. You don't get to destroy yourself and call it protection, she said. I have destroyed better things for less worthy reasons. That is not romantic. I didn't say it was. She stepped closer, anger and panic tangling inside her. You think sacrifice makes you noble? You think ruining yourself fixes what your father did? The room changed. His men looked away. Dante's voice dropped. Careful. No, you don't get careful from me. Her eyes burned. You watched my life for 7 years because guilt was easier than truth. You paid for my dream because apology was too hard. And now you want to disappear into punishment because devotion scares you more than death. For 1 second, no one breathed. Dante moved closer. So close she could see the storm behind his eyes. You think you understand me? I think you want me alive because losing me would prove your world destroys everything beautiful near it. His face tightened. She had hit something real. You should be afraid of me, he said. I am. Then step back. She did not. I'm also afraid of what happens if you leave me alone in the ruins you created. His control fractured. Only slightly. Enough. His hand lifted toward her face. Stopped. Hovered there, inches from her cheek. Evelyn's breath caught. He looked at his own hand like it had betrayed him. Then he lowered it. I don't touch things I don't know how to keep safe, he said. Her voice softened despite herself. I'm not a thing. I know. No, she whispered. I don't think you do. Before he could answer, the church bells above them rang. Once. Twice. Then the lights went out. The attack came through the old cemetery. Vasiliev men moved through the snow between broken headstones, using the abandoned church as cover. Dante's guards met them in silence at first, then everything became chaos. Shouting, shattered glass, flashes of light against stained windows, snow swirling through open doors. Dante grabbed Evelyn's hand and pulled her through a tunnel beneath the altar. Stay behind me. I'm done being hidden. This is not the moment for pride. It's not pride. He looked back. Her face was pale but steady. It's my mother's story too. Something in him softened, painfully. But there was no time. They reached an old crypt chamber lined with marble plaques and rusted candle stands. Dante pushed open a hidden compartment in the wall and retrieved a small metal case. Evelyn stared. What is that? The reason they came. Inside was a music box. Old, silver, tarnished. Evelyn's knees almost weakened. My mother had one like that. It was hers. He placed it in her hands. When Celeste ran, she hid pieces of the ledger in places only a dancer would think to look. Victor thought it was in the theater accounts. The Vasilievs thought it was in old costumes. My father died thinking it was burned. Evelyn opened the box. A soft melody played. Swan Lake. But beneath the velvet lining was a tiny data drive. Her breath stopped. Dante looked at it as if staring at a loaded gun. That, he said, can end them. A voice echoed from the tunnel behind them. How touching. Victor Hale stepped from the darkness, holding a gun low at his side. Evelyn froze. Dante moved in front of her. Victor smiled. Always the same with dancers. Give them music, and they believe suffering has meaning. Dante's voice was deadly calm. You should have run when I let you breathe. Victor shrugged. You won't kill me in front of her. Dante's silence made Victor's smile falter. Evelyn stepped from behind Dante. Victor. Dante's head turned sharply. Evelyn. She ignored him. Victor's eyes narrowed. My mother hid the ledger, she said. Not because she was weak. Because she knew men like you only understand ownership. She turned your greed into evidence. Victor lifted the gun slightly. Give me the drive. Dante's body tensed. Evelyn held the music box tighter. No. Victor's eyes went flat. Then I'll take it from your body. Dante moved. A gunshot cracked through the crypt. Evelyn screamed as Dante slammed into Victor, driving him against the stone wall. The gun skidded across the floor. The two men struggled in the candlelit dark. Brutal and fast. Victor fought like a cornered animal. Dante fought like a man who had spent his life making violence efficient. Evelyn grabbed the fallen gun with shaking hands but could not aim. Not at them. Not like this. Victor pulled a knife from his sleeve. Dante caught his wrist. Victor smiled through blood on his lip. She'll never love you. You're just your father with better manners. Dante's face went empty. Evelyn saw the change. The room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Dante, she said. He did not hear. His hand tightened around Victor's wrist. Victor cried out. The knife fell. Dante forced him to his knees. For one terrifying second, Evelyn knew he would kill him. And part of her understood. That scared her most. She stepped forward and placed her hand on Dante's arm. Not pulling, not pleading, simply touching. Don't let him make you become the story they told about you, she whispered. Dante went still. His breathing was heavy. Victor trembled beneath him. Evelyn's hand remained on his arm. Slowly, painfully, Dante released him. Victor collapsed to the floor. Dante turned to Evelyn, and the look in his eyes nearly broke her. Not softness. Not yet. Something raw. Fear. Not for himself. For what she had almost seen. For what he had almost become. Then a shot rang from the tunnel. Dante Yakel. Evelyn fell. His guard appeared from the opposite entrance and fired toward the tunnel. The attacker fell back into darkness. Evelyn's world narrowed to Dante. He looked down at his side, then back at her. It's nothing. She nearly laughed through terror. You're bleeding. I've had worse. I don't care. She caught him as he staggered, though he was too heavy for her. Together they sank against the crypt wall, snow and dust drifting through broken stone above them. For the first time since she had met him, Dante Moretti looked mortal. Evelyn pressed her hands against his wound, panic rising. Stay with me. His eyes found hers. You sound concerned. Don't be arrogant while bleeding. A faint, impossible smile touched his mouth. There she is. Tears blurred her vision. I hate you. I know. I hate that you watched me. I know. I hate that you paid for everything. Yes. I hate that when I thought I was alone, I wasn't. His smile faded. Evelyn's voice broke. And I hate that some part of me needed that. Dante stared at her, as if the words hurt more than the wound. His hand lifted slowly. This time, he did not stop. His fingers touched her cheek with unbearable care. You never needed me, he said. That is why I could not look away. Above them, sirens wailed in the distance. The old church burned behind them before dawn. Not by accident. By Dante's order. After his men recovered the drive. After Victor was taken alive. After the Vasiliev attackers were either captured or chased into the snow, Dante stood outside the abandoned church with a bandage beneath his black coat and watched flames climb through the broken roof. Evelyn stood beside him wrapped in his overcoat. Her hair smelled of smoke. Her hands still shook. The music box was held against her chest. You burned a church, she said. It was deconsecrated. That's your defense? It also had tunnels compromised by Russians. She looked at him. He looked back. For the first time, the corner of his mouth almost moved. Almost. The fire painted his face gold and red. Why burn it? She asked. To end one hiding place. And the others? His eyes lowered to the music box. That depends on what you choose. Evelyn understood then. He was giving her the ledger. Not hiding it. Not controlling it. Not using it first. Giving it to her. The choice her mother had died trying to protect. By noon, the city exploded. The leaked article about Evelyn's fake mafia marriage was drowned beneath something larger. Financial records. Court documents. Old payment ledgers. Shipping manifests. Names of politicians. Judges. Businessmen. And law enforcement officials who had fed off mafia money for decades. Victor Hale was arrested at a private medical facility under guard. The Vasiliev family's Boston operations collapsed within 48 hours. Half the imperial board fled the country. The other half pretended they had always supported transparency. And Dante Moretti did exactly what he promised. He stepped in front of cameras outside the theater he had bought and told the truth. Not all of it. Enough. He admitted to funding Evelyn's career anonymously. He denied any romantic or criminal arrangement. He exposed Victor's forged documents. He gave Evelyn credit for the recovered evidence and made himself the scandal's shield. Reporters shouted questions. Mr. Moretti, why protect Evelyn Hart? Was she your mistress? Are you in love with her? Dante paused at the last question. Evelyn watched from inside the theater lobby, unseen behind dark glass. Dante's face remained cold. She is not a possession, he said. She is not a rumor. She is not a woman any man in this city gets to use to reach me. The reporters erupted. Dante looked straight toward the lobby glass. Straight toward her. And if anyone tries, they will learn the difference between power and permission. He turned away before the world could see too much. But Evelyn had seen enough. 3 weeks later, the Imperial reopened. Not with Swan Lake. Evelyn refused to dance that story again. At least not yet. Instead, she choreographed a new piece. No press was invited. No critics. Only the company. A few donors who had survived the scandal. And the dancers who had spent years under Victor's cruelty. Learning to mistake fear for discipline. The theater felt different now. Cleaner somehow. Not innocent, never that. But honest in its scars. The velvet seats had been repaired, the stage polished. Victor's office emptied. Dante had not interfered. That, more than anything, unsettled her. He owned the theater but never entered rehearsals, paid salaries but never demanded gratitude, replaced the board but never touched the artistic decisions. When Evelyn asked why, he said only, "You know what belongs on that stage better than I do." She did not see him for 9 days before the performance, but she felt him, in the guards stationed discreetly outside, in the medical staff now available to every dancer, in the scholarship fund renamed after Celeste Hart, in the absence of fear. On the night of the private performance, snow fell again over Boston. Evelyn stood backstage in a simple ivory costume, not a swan, not a bride, not a ghost, just a woman in motion. Her ankle had healed, the deeper wounds had not. But for the first time, she was not dancing to outrun them. A stagehand approached with a small box. "This was left for you." Evelyn's heart stopped. Inside was a rose. White. No ribbon. No thread. Only a folded note. She knew Dante's handwriting before she knew why. Not all flowers are warnings. She closed her eyes. When she stepped onto the stage, Dante was in box 7. Alone. No men behind him. No visible power. Just darkness, a black suit, and eyes that followed her like prayer from a man who did not believe he deserved one. The music began. Evelyn danced. Not perfectly. Better than perfectly. She danced like a woman telling the truth with her entire body. She danced her mother running through dark streets with a ledger hidden beneath her coat. She danced a little girl listening to sirens through apartment walls. She danced hunger, humiliation, rage, survival. She danced a man in a balcony buying a theater not to own her, but because he could not bear to watch the world break her again. At the end, she did not freeze. She stood center stage in silence. Then she looked up at box 7. Dante Rose. This time, he applauded. Only once at first. Then again. The sound echoed through the Imperial like the beginning of something fragile and dangerous and alive. The rest of the theater followed. Afterward, Evelyn found him on the empty stage. The house lights were low. Snow moved beyond the lobby windows. Somewhere outside, Boston continued pretending. It was an ordinary city. Dante stood near the edge of the stage where the black rose had once fallen. He looked at her as she approached. "You dance like her," he said. Evelyn stopped. "My mother?" He nodded. "Did you see her dance?" "Once." She waited. "I was 16, he said. "My brother brought me here. I thought ballet would bore me. Then Celeste Hart came on stage and made every violent man in the room feel uncivilized." Evelyn's eyes burned. "That sounds like her. It sounds like you." The silence that followed was soft, but not easy. Nothing between them would ever be easy. She stepped closer. "I don't forgive everything. I know. I don't know what this is." "Neither do I." That surprised her. Dante Moretti, who had answers for violence, money, betrayal, and war, looked almost helpless beneath the stage lights. Evelyn studied him. "Are you still afraid to touch me?" His jaw tightened. "Yes." "Why?" "Because when I want things, I have been taught to take them." "And me?" His eyes darkened. "You are the first thing I have wanted enough to refuse myself." Her breath caught. Slowly, Evelyn reached for his hand. He went still. She placed his palm against her waist, over the thin fabric of her costume. His fingers flexed once, restrained even now. "I'm choosing this," she whispered. "Not because you protected me. Not because you paid for anything. Not because you scare everyone else." His eyes held hers. "Then why?" "Because you scare me too," she said. "But you stopped when I asked. You listened when it mattered. And when you had the chance to own my story, you gave it back." Something broke in his face. Not dramatically. Dante did not break like ordinary men, but his control loosened just enough for Evelyn to see the lonely boy beneath the empire. The 17-year-old who had watched his family spill blood and learned silence as survival. The man who had mistaken distance for mercy. The monster who had chosen, again and again, not to become the worst thing he knew. His hand rose to her cheek. This time, there was no hesitation. "You should still run from me," he said. Evelyn leaned into his touch. "I'm a ballerina," she whispered. "I don't run." For the first time, Dante smiled. Barely. Devastatingly. Then he lowered his forehead to hers. They stood like that on the stage of the theater he had bought after she cried. Surrounded by ghosts, snow, and the quiet aftermath of war. Outside, black SUVs waited beneath the marquee. Inside, the Imperial no longer felt like Victor's kingdom. It felt like a place where something ruined had been reclaimed. Months later, when spring finally softened Boston's edges, the Celeste Hart Foundation opened in the restored wing of the Imperial Theater. Young dancers arrived with worn shoes, nervous eyes, and dreams too expensive for their families to afford. Evelyn met each one personally. She learned their names, their injuries, their fears. She made sure no director could ever again use hunger as a leash. Dante watched from the back of the studio on opening day, silent as always. The children were not afraid of him because they did not know enough to be. One little girl with crooked ballet slippers walked up to him and asked if he was the security guard. Evelyn nearly laughed. Dante looked down at the child gravely. Something like that. The girl handed him a sticker shaped like a star. For doing a good job. Dante stared at it like he had been handed a foreign weapon. Evelyn turned away to hide her smile. Later that evening, after the building emptied, she found him alone in the main theater. Box 7 had been left open. The stage was bare. Dante stood in the aisle, looking up at the balcony, where everything had begun. "You're quiet," Evelyn said. "I am always quiet." "No, this is different." He glanced at her. She had learned to read him in fragments. The tension in his shoulders. The distance in his eyes. The way his hand flexed when he wanted to reach for her but still thought desire had to ask permission from guilt. She walked down the aisle and stood beside him. "What is it?" He reached into his coat and removed a folded document. Evelyn took it. Her breath caught when she saw the title. Ownership Transfer. The Boston Imperial Theater. Her name. She looked up slowly. "Dante. It belongs to the foundation now. You bought this theater for millions." "Yes. And you're giving it away?" "No," he said. "I'm giving it back." Her chest tightened. "To me." "To her." "To you." "To every girl who should never have to survive a man like Victor. To become extraordinary." Evelyn stared at him through tears. "You keep doing that." "What?" "Making it very difficult to hate you." His eyes softened in that dangerous, barely visible way. "I can stop." "No," she whispered. "Don't." For a moment, they simply stood there in the aisle between old velvet seats and new silence. Then Dante reached into his coat again. Evelyn narrowed her eyes. "If that's another legal document, I'm leaving." "It isn't." He opened his hand. A black rose lay across his palm. Evelyn's body went cold. Dante held her gaze. "I had every record of the Vasiliev marker destroyed," he said. "Every supplier, every account, every man who used it to threaten you is gone or buried, where he cannot reach you." She looked from him to the rose. "Then why are you holding that?" "Because symbols only keep power if we leave them in the hands of the people who hurt us." He took out a silver lighter. Evelyn understood. Together, they walked to the edge of the stage. Dante handed her the rose. This time, her hand did not shake. She held it over a brass bowl from the old prop room while Dante lit the flame. The petals caught slowly, black curling into orange, threat becoming ash. Evelyn watched until nothing remained. Then she looked at Dante, the man Boston feared, the man who had bought a theater because she cried, the man who had almost become a monster for her and stopped because she touched his arm in the dark, the man who had spent years protecting her badly, then learned to love her better. "What happens now?" she asked. Dante stepped closer. "Now," he said, "you dance. You build this place. You decide who gets to stand beside you. And you?" His eyes held hers with quiet, devastating patience. "I wait until you choose me again." Evelyn smiled through tears. Then she took his hand. Not because he demanded it. Not because danger forced it. Because in a world built on ownership, choosing was the most romantic rebellion she had left. "I choose you tonight," she said. Dante's composure fractured in the smallest way. "Enough." He lifted her hand and pressed his lips to her knuckles. Not possessive. Not performative. A vow without witnesses. Outside, Boston rain began to fall, washing the last snow from the streets. The city lights blurred against the theater windows. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed and faded, unable to reach the quiet place they had made between them. Evelyn leaned into Dante's side as they stood before the empty stage. For years, she had believed her mother's story ended with a black rose. Now she knew better. Some stories did not end where the wound began. Some stories waited in the dark, guarded by dangerous men with broken hearts, until the woman at the center was finally strong enough to take the stage again. And when Evelyn Hart stepped into the light the next morning, Dante Moretti was not in the balcony above her. He was beside her, silent, feared, devoted. and for the first time in his life, no longer watching from the shadows.